All right, let's do this thing. Happy Saturday morning, y'all. This is Shua of Shua Cycles, off on another brilliant, long ride. And today we're going to be chatting about another TV show. We're going to talk about a different type of show this time. We're going to talk more adult. And we're going to talk about the infamous Better Call Saul. Now, Better Call Saul, if you don't know, is a prequel to Breaking Bad that follows the earlier days in Albuquerque of Jimmy McGill, also known as Saul Goodman. It kind of leads us to the Saul Goodman we know at the beginning of Breaking Bad. And it was really interesting for me to, because I came into Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul very late. I just finished watching Breaking Bad 2 years ago, I think it was. I was around, like I've said in the past, I ended up being a contrarian a lot in school, so everyone starts coming in, oh, you gotta watch this show's incredible, and I'm like, screw that, it's probably not that good. But no, Breaking Bad definitely was something very, very special. Finishing that, I was like, man, that's awesome. And then learning that there was a show all based around Saul Goodman, who was a character that I adored from the original Breaking Bad. I'm like, hell yes, we get to see more of this guy, more of his antics. And just kind of curious how he became the lawyer that he is in Breaking Bad. And I didn't come up with this line, someone else did, but the funniest part about Better Call Saul is you start the show wanting Saul Goodman, but you end the show just wishing, or not even end the show, you end the next to last season just wanting Jimmy McGill back, and you just want him to be happy. It's like, oh my god, there's so much that happens in that show that humanizes this character. That, in all respects, is just kind of a piece of shit. Here. My legs are still angry at me from doing Ring Fit. So, Better Call Saul starts out with Jimmy McGill, who has just passed his bar exam, and he's trying to become a lawyer at his brother's company, HHM. And the show basically starts out with HHM rejecting him, saying he can't be a partner, or he can't be a lawyer at their firm. And so Jimmy's kind of running his own small law firm in the back of a nail salon, just trying to make things work day to day. And he gets caught up with this client that he really wants to work for. This guy who's in trouble for embezzling, and basically kind of tries to force his services onto them, and they reject, which ends up, a lot of stuff happens, but in the end he ends up basically making them turn themselves in to the law because they won't let him represent them. And we get so many of these little segments in the show about Jimmy wanting to do the wrong thing and then decides in the end to do the right thing. And every time he does the right thing, it kicks him when he's already down, until he finally makes the decision that he's never going to let his morals get in the way of him doing wrong thing ever again. Breaking Bad, as we've talked about, is, or at least in my personal opinion, it's really about the evils of man and the idea of what would you do if you only had, you know, a month left to live. What would you do? You know, and Walter White chooses to be as evil to the world as he feels the world was to him. I think Better Call Saul is a lot more about choice. It's a lot more about choice and how choices in your life affect you, and how one small choice can really send you down the wrong path for the rest of your days. And kind of in the same vein of how everyone talks about this is the moment that Walt became Heisenberg. You know, for some people it's when he blew up Tuco's hideout. Some people it was when they killed Tuco, or some people it's when he first killed Ernesto and the other guy there. So there's a lot of theories on Heisenberg, and I think the same can be said of Jimmy McGill when he first became Saul Goodman. I mean, you can say he first became Saul Goodman when he was stealing coins out of his own dad's register at that store, or you can say that he first became Saul Goodman when he started doing con jobs with Marco. And there's a ton of different times where you can consider Saul or Jimmy to turn into Saul. And I don't think I have a definitive answer, because I really don't think that was the focus. My bigger focus was, when does Saul turn back into Jimmy? Because there is a point where he really wants to give up his old persona, and he really wants to go back to the life he had before. Better Call Saul, though, we have some pretty good characters. We have Chuck, who is Jimmy's brother, who's a very good lawyer, but a very bad person. He's very hateful, very full of himself. But here's the thing. The show wants to present him as a villain, or as an obstacle for Jimmy to overcome. But when you really think about it, Chuck is not the bad guy in the story. Chuck would technically normally be a good guy. Kind of the same as Hank in Breaking Bad. But here's the thing, and we're gonna go spoilers. Chuck is a bad person for holding the door closed on his brother, because what he doesn't realize, he's not wrong that when pressured, Jimmy does return to a lot of his slick ways of doing business in order to not only make money, but to get the results he wants. Jimmy will return to his old methods. But I think if he had been shown a little bit more brotherly compassion, the likelihood is he would have continued on a positive road instead of going down this dark path that he goes down in the show. Jimmy McGill is not a bad person by nature. He's just someone who was shown the easy way in life. And so whenever anything gets hard, he immediately goes for the easy road. So, come out of spoilers. The other good characters they have. So, Better Call Saul is really cool because it kind of splits the show into two parts. You have like the law side with Jim And then you have Kim Wexler, who is Jimmy's kind of partner in crime. And then you have Howard Hamlin, who is a nepotism baby, who is in charge now of Hamlin and McGill, the law firm that both Chuck McGill, Jimmy's brother, and Howard Hamlin work for. And they really want to portray Howard as a bad guy, and you slowly learn throughout the show that Howard's a pretty decent person. And Howard really did like Jimmy, because Jimmy had a lot of chutzpah, a lot of get up and go. The issue was that if Chuck hadn't been at HHM, they probably would have given Jimmy a chance. And you watch Howard slowly throughout the show go down the downward spiral, which is pretty interesting. So that's pretty much everything on the law side. And then in slowly bringing back the crime side that we saw a lot of in Breaking Bad. First they start off with bringing in a new character who works for an old character. His name is Nacho. He works for Tuco Salamanca. And he's a rather interesting character. If you don't know, he is played by Michael Mondo, who played Vasna Montenegro in Far Cry 3. Seriously, dude. In Far Cry 3. Fantastic actor. I was trying to recognize him when I first saw him. I'm like, his voice sounds so familiar. And his face does too. I'm like, oh my god, that's Voss. He did such a good job in that role. Very interesting character, liked him quite a bit. The interesting part about him, he's another one kind of like Jimmy. He kind of is a mirror image of Jimmy. He's not a bad kid, just got caught up with the wrong crowd. Got caught up with the wrong crowd, peddling drugs, doing the wrong things. And then they also bring back a classic character, Michael Ehrmantraut. Michael Ehrmantraut, if you don't know, was the cleaner from Breaking Bad. He was a character that was actually created because Bob Odenkirk, Saul Goodman, couldn't be part of a shoot during, I think it was season 2 in Breaking Bad when Jane dies. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling Breaking Bad for you, but that show's old enough. I don't feel that bad. Better Call Saul just ended last year. Alright. Originally we were going to go all the way to the end of this road. This road's been pretty busy. So we're going to take a right. Right here. Oh, we're going to go a different way. Whew. Okay, let's go this way. Yeah, they brought back Mike Ehrmantraut, played by Jonathan Banks. Jonathan is the greatest. I love him so much. He plays such a good character. He's such a humble actor too. And you listen to him in interviews and stuff. I love him. He's great. So having Mike back is pretty cool. And the best part about Better Call Saul, actually not, but the best part about Mike is they dig really deep into his backstory and tell you a lot of, well, why is he in Albuquerque? We know he's a former police officer. You know, what happened? And we kind of get to learn the backstory about how Mike and the police department he worked for, they were all crooked. They were all taking backhand deals, turning the other way for things. You know, we can see how it affected Mike. And then we also see Mike's daughter-in-law, who's reeling with the death of her husband, Matt, who was Mike's son, and she's under the impression that he was dirty, and then he took a bribe or something, and he was killed because of it. And Mike pretty much admits to her that no, he wasn't dirty. He was the only one that wasn't dirty. He has a full-on emotional breakdown, which is more than we ever saw from Mike in Breaking Bad. And it was so nice to see. Jonathan Banks played it so well. That whole scene, my boy wasn't dirty. You got that? Oh, it's so good. I love him. So yeah, Mike's now a parking attendant in Albuquerque. And we kind of get to see his progression and how he becomes the cleaner that we know him to be, because, you know, hard to be a cleaner when you're working in a parking garage, letting people in. And he's got, so it sounds like they were going to have Bill Burr's character come back at some point. And I don't know if it was the first time they had Steve Ong, or if it was the second time, the guy who played Trevor in Grand Theft Auto. But he was in one of the first really, really good Mike episodes, or the first episode focused around Mike, that was like, yes, he's back. It was kind of cool to see. I thought it was cool to see. New characters being brought in. It was awesome to see Mike. Trying to think who else. Oh, we get to see Don Hector in Better Call Saul, and the coolest part about Don Hector is he is out of his chair. This is before he has his stroke that leads to him being chair-bound, ringing that bell. So we kind of get to see the origin of the bell. We get to see the origin of kind of what Don Hector was like before his stroke. It's really good stuff. I enjoyed thoroughly that whole series. You get to see a little bit more Tuco before he goes to jail, which I'm surprised they got him back. I can't remember the actor's name, but apparently he really hated playing that role. I was actually listening to an interview recently. We're going to side tangent just a little bit, because you would think playing Walter White would really grate on you. It's funny that Bryan Cranston, he doesn't have an issue playing Walter White, but he's like, and I agree 100% with what he said, because what he said was, I feel like I played that character to the best of my ability and did everything with that character that we possibly could have. He said, so I have very few regrets about that character. And I heard that and I'm like, man, that's a perfect way of putting that, because it's just so true. How can you have regrets when you think you've played the character to the best of your ability? And he's also like, I get to rephrase him like once a year, so how do you get tired? How do you feel like you miss a character when you never stop playing them? And I'm like, that's true. Oh. But yeah, they got, I'll think of his name eventually. They got him back, and then of course you have Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Gus Fring. Awesome to see him back. I always loved Gus Fring, and Giancarlo Esposito is as great as always. I like this version probably a little bit more, because they also add a new cartel member, a new family member of the Salamanca family. His name is Lalo, and Lalo is pretty interesting. I really liked him because, most of the Salamancas were just bloodthirsty idiots, and I'm not gonna say he's not bloodthirsty, but he's definitely not an idiot. Lalo is very clean and concise, and he's charming too. He's such a, I'd want to go get a beer with him. He just seems like such a swell guy, even though he does a lot of horrible shit in the show. But Lalo Salamanca, fantastic addition, good character, well written. And here's the big thing about Better Call Saul, is if you even slightly liked Breaking Bad, I definitely think you should give Better Call Saul a try. Watch it through once or twice. And the big reason I say that is because Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan are such good writers. Like, if we want to talk, like we talked before, Ozark versus Breaking Bad, the writers on Ozark can't even hold a candle to Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. I mean, I've heard very few complaints about things that happen in Breaking Bad. It's not to say there are no issues, but there are very few. A lot of the issues that people do have can be at least partially explained away. And there's still things that we are debating to this day about that show, because, like, that's mild spoilers. It's Breaking Bad, though. In the final episode of, I think it's season 4, where Walt and Gus are having their quote-unquote face-off, Walt attempts to plant a bomb underneath Gustavo's car to try to kill him, and Gustavo somehow knows that the bomb is there, or seems to, and so he decides he's not taking that car. Now, in my opinion, Gus knows that there's a moron out there who is willing to do whatever is possible to get a win, and he knows that that car has sat there unsupervised now for X amount of time. It took him to go into the hospital and say his prayers and everything, and so I think that's why Gus decided not to get in that car. But we don't know, because it's never expressly stated why. It doesn't really matter though, does it? Because Gus didn't get in the car. There might be an explanation in the universe, but we might never know. Stuff like that. And there's so much good writing in Breaking Bad. For the most part, I find most of the characters realistic and relatable. And the reason I say that is because there are moments in the show where you can hate pretty much any of the characters. Skylar, Flynn, what's her name? I can't think of Skylar's sister. Marie, Hank, any of them. I mean, there are moments pretty much the whole show where you can hate any one of them, and you'd probably be pretty justified in disliking them. So, Better Call Saul, Better Call Saul is a lot more, can be a lot more dry, but I think it's definitely worth the watch, especially if you like Breaking Bad at all. And if you really want to see the unfortunate transition of how James McGill Esquire becomes the one and only Saul Goodman. Yeah, go give it a watch. Better Call Saul, in my opinion, and Breaking Bad are those rare shows. Breaking Bad is like a 9.5 out of 10 to me. Better Call Saul, I give it 10 out of 10. I love that series so much. I just like the characters, like the writing. And, you know, even though it's unfortunate, you know what's going to happen to half the characters. It was kind of fun being part of the show as it aired, listening to all the theories week to week and watching people just continue to be wrong. It was awesome. You know, and you see Saul kind of almost become, he has one, okay, we're gonna, spoilers. One more thing before we run away. Saul has this moment where he's with Jeff's mother. And she's figured out who he is. She's figured out that he is Saul Goodman from Albuquerque. He's running from the law. He's hiding out here in wherever they were, Colorado or whatever. And so he comes over to get Jeff, and she confronts him. And she has a moment. She calls the police. And he has a moment where he almost strangles her. And he really has to think about it, because up to this point, Saul may have had Mike or whatever Bill Burr's character was, or I don't think Huel did any killing. He might have had them do things, but he never laid his hands, put his hands dirty, not like us. And so seeing him think about it, you kind of think, oh, this is where Saul's going to go off the rails. And he chooses not to. He chooses to just continue being himself. I mean, yeah, was he scummy? Yeah. Did he get people off that shouldn't have? Yeah. But at the end of the day, he did the right thing. He admitted to the world. He took his punishment, and he went to prison. And it really has a lot to do with choice. You know, he makes that decision that, you know, I have made the bed that I sit in right now, and so I'm going to just deal with what I've gotten myself into. And that final episode is a cinematic masterpiece. The whole time machine episode, it's so good. And having Saul just admit that he's done wrong, and that, you know, he needs to right his wrongs. He needs to fix the things he's done. And he starts off by admitting to his wrongdoings with Walter White and going to prison. And I just thought, so well written, so well done. Applauded him wholeheartedly. Thought he was great. Oh, shoot. So, that's my thoughts on... Actually, let's complete it. So those are my thoughts on Better Call Saul. I thought it was a great series. Like I said, a must-watch in TV. And I think you'll enjoy it if you enjoy Breaking Bad at all. And we will talk to all of you next time. Alright guys,